Time now for the lightning round. Let's begin by getting some insight into the looming public safety crisis in the Pacific Northwest. And for that, we welcome our main man from Seattle, KTTH talk show host, Jason Rantz. Always great on the radio. And listen, Jason, I think I speak for all Americans when I say you have to wonder where this all ends. And if you're a Seattle resident or if you're living in the Pacific Northwest and you're possibly going to lose all these experienced public safety officers, you could be really staring down the barrel, if you will, pardon me for saying so, at a public safety crisis in the days and months ahead.
Well, the situation is we're already dealing with a public safety crisis. So since last year, we've already lost a third of the officers. So losing a third of what remains on this force would be devastating. You've got 149 officers have already separated from the department. So even the thought of anywhere between 100 and upwards of 350, 400 leaving this force will mean just the crime that we're experiencing will get worse. The criminals who have been running across town owning this place will get worse. And unfortunately, we're going to see more and more victims. On top of that, of course, you're already having the problems of recruiting new officers. Right. So this idea that you're suddenly going to be able to just replace them, it's just not going to happen, not in Seattle.
Yeah, even more incredible, there are people there. You were talking about an email that you obtained that really there are still those there calling for even further reductions in the number of officers on the force. It's just really, quite frankly, it's incredible. Yeah. I want to move past that, though, because I want to get to a couple of other nuggets here. This one really, it's just, I'm blown away by it. I just want to have you unpack it for our audience. Something about training documents teaching white people are oppressors and racist and black people are victims. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Seattle City employees who, quote, identify as people of color were invited to this 3-hour training. It's called Internalized Racial Inferiority, and it was put on by the city through this race and social justice initiative that they have. So the staff there were told that they suffer from internalized racism because of those oppressors that have socialized them into that belief, and that some of the symptoms of this self-hate includes assimilating into white culture and could lead to rage. And then at the same time, you've got white staffers who are offered training called internalized racial superiority, which they're taught that they're responsible for racism, that individualism is white supremacy, that they have to give up their, quote, guaranteed physical safety in order to fight racism, and that they have to interrupt whiteness in order to become an anti-racist accomplice.
Okay, so you laid out what's happening. I'm just curious before I hit the last part of this segment. What are you hearing from people when they hear things like this are happening in their city? Is it sort of a shrug of the shoulders, or is there an outrage?
Well, there's definitely no outrage except for a handful of employees who reached out to me saying that they were disgusted by this, especially black officers who said, don't tell me I'm suffering from some kind of self-hate because I don't buy into this anti-racist nonsense. But unfortunately, we live in a city that is filled with very, very far to the left fringe voters who seem to think that this is the right way to go.
Wow, this is incredible. Okay, just about 40 seconds to go. I want to use a soundbite here that I think people will find pretty shocking. A teacher more or less bullying a student about the vaccination, COVID-19 vax. Listen to this.
They don't have the different variations come from a person who's not vaccinated. And then it's passed and passed and passed, and it can make thousands and thousands of people sick. It is so selfish of people not to get the vaccine. You are killing people.
You are killing people is what this teacher said to the student in the last 25, 30 seconds. Your thoughts on that, my friend?
Yeah, I think we're seeing more and more of this going on. This is happening at Puyallup High School. It's just south of Seattle. And a student, his name is Tanner, decided, you know what, I'm going to film this because this is not the first time, he says, that this teacher has done that. And unless you're getting this kind of proof, unfortunately, nothing can be done. The parent complained to the school. The vice principal tried to get her to delete the video. Thankfully, she didn't, and the mother sent it to me instead. And it's important to understand, I've just posted the video on Twitter. These students were pushing back, and I'm proud of them for that, because there should be no adult who is going behind their parents' back to try to pressure kids into any medical decision, even one that we might agree with. It's very clearly inappropriate. The kids knew that, and they said, no, you're not going to bully me today.
Well, this is where parents are really have to take the lead on this sort of thing, Jason. You have to make sure you talk to your students, because if they see things happening, they should obviously try to make a record when and where they can. He's the host with the most, Jason Rantz from Seattle, KTTH. Thank you, my friend. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Kevin. You too.